What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Another Turnover, the basketball podcast where a basketball fan with zero basketball credibility gives his opinions on what's going on in the NBA. Opinions that no one asked for. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Chris Aaron Murphy, aka AA Ron, and ladies and gentlemen, let's just jump right into it. Folks, welcome back to the latest iteration of Another Turnover. I am excited after a few week hiatus. Those of you who know me in real life or my personal life know that I am currently deep in the midst of wedding planning. So going through finding a venue and a DJ and a photographer and all that stuff. Let me tell you something about myself. I'm not a planner. Not a planner or an organizer when it comes to events and whatnot. That is not my forte. But I'm doing it with my favorite person in the entire world, my lovely fiance. So we're getting it. Wedding day is coming up fast. But I am excited to be back on this episode. Excited to get into some things. First of all, happy Black History Month. I'm recording this. It's February 2nd. I'm recording this. But by the time you're hearing this, it'll be at least February 3rd. So happy Black History Month. I want to thank all of the Black and brown people who have contributed so much to our society, not just in the United States, but across the world through inventions and discoveries and research and inspiration. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you have done. But speaking of Black History Month, if you were a longtime listener, you remember I did this last year where I just want to share some little Black History trivia, but NBA related. So we're gonna do that this year as well. So I'll try to do that for all the episodes of this month. But first Black History trivia question that I have here: who is the only player to be who's the only player to be top 5 all time in points and assists? I feel as if it's pretty easy, but the answer will be revealed at the end of the episode, so you make sure you gotta listen to the whole thing. But let's just jump right into today's episode. So I just kind of want to basically go over, we'll talk about the current standings, the state of the league as of the time of recording, Thursday night. We'll talk about All-Star game coming up on February 19th, so we're just a little more than a few weeks away from that. And then we'll talk about a particular player who was one of my favorite players to watch, and in the MVP race. So I think you'll probably know where I'm going with that. But let's take a look at the current standings. Let's take a look in the East first. So right now, number one in the Eastern Conference and number one in the NBA percentage-wise is the Boston Celtics. 11-5 record they had since January 1st, since the new year. So they've been playing well. They beat some really good teams during that stretch. They beat Dallas, they beat Brooklyn, and they also beat Golden State. So Boston Celtics are playing pretty well. Joe Mazzulla, it's basically like Ime Udoka's there. Like, Joe Mazzulla really hasn't done a whole lot, like, with their offensive and defensive strategies. At least I don't think. I mean, granted, I'm just a fan, so maybe there's some things that coaches see differently that I don't, but Joe Mazzulla has them playing pretty good basketball, so I'm definitely impressed with the Boston Celtics. Also, though, with an 11-5 record since January, overall record of 34-17, is the Milwaukee Bucks, my early preseason pick. They didn't beat a whole lot of playoff level teams during that stretch, but they did beat Denver, who we'll talk about here momentarily. But the Bucks have been playing pretty solid. Third in the Eastern Conference, you have the Philadelphia 76ers with the best record since January 1st, as of the time of recording, 12-3, beating the Clippers, beating the Nuggets, and beating the Lakers, which the Lakers aren't a playoff team, but I just like to highlight when they lose. But they have an overall record of 33-17. Fourth in the Eastern Conference, team who has struggled pretty much all of the new year, you have the Brooklyn Nets with a 7-8 record, so below 500 record. And they've had some bad losses. They lost to Oklahoma City. They lost to San Antonio, which, I mean, I'm cool with that, but San Antonio's awful this year. And then they also lost to Detroit, who was pretty bad, bringing them down to a 31-20 record on the season. If you remember a few weeks back, well, before Kevin Durant got hurt, I was talking about how they were rolling. They had won like 17 of 18 or something crazy like that. Kevin Durant's still out, if I'm not mistaken. He is not back yet. But probably when he gets back, they'll probably I don't see them being below 500, but we'll see. Another team who has kind of fluctuated a little bit is the Cleveland Cavaliers with a 31-22 record, right behind the Nets. But they've had an 8-8 record since January 1st of this year. But they did beat some pretty decent teams. They beat Phoenix, they beat Portland, and they beat the Milwaukee Bucks during that stretch. So Cleveland has kind of been up and down since kind of starting off pretty hot. I do see some holes defensively from that team. Their front court defensively isn't bad, but their perimeter defense leaves a bit to be desired. So that could rear its ugly head come playoff time, but we shall see. A team that has played pretty well since 2023 has started, though, the number 6 seed, the Miami Heat, with a 29-23 record, 10-5 record in January, beating the Clippers, beating the Bucks twice, and also beating the best team in the Eastern Conference, Boston. So Miami Heat is on the come up. I definitely had them, I think I had them ranked much higher than 6. They were pretty bad to start with earlier in the season, but I think they had some injuries that they were going through. But number 7, you have the New York Knicks at an 8-7 record. They've beaten Cleveland, they've beaten Boston during that stretch. 8-7 record in January. Overall record of 27-25, so just barely above 500. So the Knicks, I don't expect much from them right now. They are a play-in team, and that's being generous, I would say. Now, well, let me backtrack that a little bit. Jalen Brunson has played pretty well. He probably is their best player. They're paying him like he's the best player. So, this is probably about where I expected the Knicks to be. But the next team underneath them, a team I just expect more from. I'm disappointed with them, and that's the Atlanta Hawks. They went 9-7 since January, 26-26 record, so right at 500 right now. Beat some decent teams during that stretch. Beats the Clippers, beat the Bucks, and beat Miami Heat. But I just expected more from them ever since they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. What was that? 21, yeah, losing to the Milwaukee Bucks, the eventual champion. Last year they below expectations. This year below expectations. Is Trae Young the number one? Can Trae Young be the number one option on a championship team? I guess the jury is still out on that. DeJounte Murray has played pretty well. I have a hard time saying that because he keeps running his mouth about the Spurs, but that's a story for another day. But he's played well. I will give credit where credit is due. But yeah, this Hawks team, I'm just kind of disappointed with them, personally. But 9th seed is the Washington Wizards with a 24-26 record. Went 8-5 though since January 1st. They beat Milwaukee and they beat Dallas during that stretch. Bradley Beal's just collecting a check, so I don't really have much else to say about the Washington Wizards. So, and then in the 10th spot, you have the Indiana Pacers with a 24-28 record. Not a good 2023 for them so far. Pretty much mostly due to injury, but 4-11 since 2023 started. They were balling out. Tyrese Halliburton and what's his one kid's name? Mathurin, I think is his last name. I can't remember his first name. But they were playing pretty well. But they've had some, they lost to the Philadelphia 76ers, which is not that surprising. They lost to the Orlando Magic, which who loses to the Magic? Probably the Spurs. But, and then they lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, Pacers, bit of a skid. I think Tyrese Halliburton. Oh, my Siri just triggered. Oh, hold on. Be quiet, Siri. Anyway, I think Tyrese Halliburton is back if I'm not mistaken, but we shall see. We shall see. Where the Indiana Pacers land from here. So still a lot of flexibility in the Eastern Conference. You have, let's see, seeds 2 through 6. So the actual playoff teams are only separated by about 5.5 games. So you have a lot of mobility there. In the Eastern Conference. But let's take a look at the Western Conference. Let's take a look what's going on there. So best team in the West, number one record, I should say, is the Denver Nuggets with a 12-4 record since January started. 35-16 record overall, beating some pretty solid teams, beating Boston, beating the Clippers, and beating the Cleveland Cavaliers during that stretch. Y'all know I love me some Nikola Jokic, one of my favorite players to watch. He is the reigning back-to-back MVP. Pretty solid from the Denver Nuggets. I like what I've seen from them. I think I have them. I don't know what I have them. I didn't pick them in the finals. I think I picked the Warriors, but I have them making a deep run. I could see it. I can see it this year more so than the previous years. But excuse me. You have the number 2 seed in the Western Conference, the Memphis Grizzlies, 10-6 record since January started. They have lost 6 of their last 7. So not a great, stretch of games for them ever since that Shannon Sharp incident. When Shannon Sharp got into it with Dylan Brooks, which was hilarious to me. But yeah, not a great stretch from them. I can't remember who they beat during that stretch, but they've lost to quite a few teams that they probably should have beat. But they got a 32-19 record right now. This took me by surprise. The Sacramento Kings, the third best team in the West, 29-21, 10-6 record since January 1st. They beat the Lakers. They beat the Memphis Grizzlies. Just solid. I mean, De'Aaron Fox. Who else is on that team? Sabonis is playing well. You got that one kid. I don't know how he's doing, but I know they drafted Davion Mitchell from Baylor last year, the year before last, if I'm not mistaken. But they're hungry. I mean, I'm like, could this be the year the Kings get back in the playoffs? I think the last time they were in the playoffs was 2006. I would love to see them back in the playoffs. I mean, Spurs ain't gonna make the playoffs, so why not Sacramento? Why not? But fourth best team in the Western Conference, the Clippers, 8-8 record since January 1st, 29-25 record currently. They have won, unlike the Grizzlies. On the flip side, they've won 6 of their last 7 games. So they're playing pretty well. Kawhi Leonard's playing consistently again. Paul George is playing consistently again. So pretty solid from the Los Angeles Clippers. Fifth seed in the Western Conference, Dallas Mavericks. 27-25 record with a 6-9 record, a losing record since the new year started. They have lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've lost to the Washington Wizards. And they've also lost to the Portland Trailblazers. Those are all non-playoff teams that they probably should have beat. But unfortunate for them, they've been losing. Luka Doncic, people talking about how great he is. He needs some help. I don't know what else to say about that. Mark Cuban's got to get him some help. Mark Cuban's willing to spend the money. But who would they get? Who would they trade for? Who's going to sign there? Obviously, jury remains to be seen, or jury's still out, I should say, on that. Sixth seed, this one also surprised me, the Minnesota Timberwolves, because they started off really slow this year. 28-26 overall record, 12-5 record since the new year, so pretty solid overall record since the new year started. They beat Denver, they beat Cleveland, they beat Memphis, all playoff teams, so pretty solid for them. The Golden State Warriors, who have been losing a lot, they're 26-25 on the season. A play-in team currently, but 7-7 record since the new year started. Obviously, Steph Curry just got back in the lineup about a week and a half ago. So they've been dealing with, obviously, his significant injury. The difference between him being on the floor and him being off the floor is crazy. But they've been kind of flying by the, how should I put this? They've struggled mightily without him, but they've also struggled with him. Because there have been games, really close games, and games that they probably shouldn't have lost, that they lost, and that he did play in. But you also have, let's see here, 8th seed in the West, Phoenix Suns, 7-9 record since January started, 27-26 record overall. They've lost to Miami, they've lost to Atlanta, they lost to the Knicks. The Suns, yeah, I think they're pretty sure their window's probably done. I mean, Chris Paul is noticeably showing his age. I'm not saying he's washed or anything like that, but he's definitely showing his age. That 2021, championship or finals run that they had, that was probably their shot. Because, yeah, I don't see it with this team anymore. But who knows? 9th seed in the West with an 8-6 record since the new year started. Also 27-26. The Utah Jazz. They beat Cleveland, they beat the Clippers, and they beat Dallas during that stretch. So they, shot out the gate really hot. They were the number 1 seed in the Western Conference for a hot minute, but they've obviously kind of fallen back to grace. Everybody thought they were going to be one of the worst teams in the league. Right now, they're a playing team. It's pretty shocking. This team, number 10 seed, the New Orleans Pelicans, with a 26-26 record. Feel really bad for them because they were playing really great basketball before injuries to both Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. 3-13 record since the new year started. Not great. Lost to Orlando, lost to the Washington Wizards, both non-playoff teams as of right now. I don't think there's a timetable yet for when Zion Williamson's coming back. I think Brandon Ingram just recently came back, so hopefully they can get back to their winning ways somewhat. But, yeah, not great. Not great for the New Orleans Pelicans. But those are the current standings. That's how they shape up as of today, February 2nd. Best record in January, though, the Philadelphia 76ers with a 12-3 record. Now, if you remember on my season premiere episode this season, preseason prediction was that the Philadelphia 76ers were going to have the best overall record in the NBA, best regular season record. I mean, it was in the beginning that pick wasn't looking so great with all the injuries they had, but I mean, it's not looking too bad right now. We'll see. And then obviously I had Memphis as the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. They're 3 games behind Denver. That's all I'm saying. Those picks aren't looking too bad now. I was clowned a little bit for my Memphis Grizzlies pick especially, but I'm just saying, they're second in the West right now. But let's transition a little bit. Next segment that I wanted to talk about. The All-Star Game. Like I said, the All-Star Game's coming up here soon. February 19th to be exact, so just a little more than 2 weeks away from the All-Star Game. The starters got announced last week, if you've been paying attention. So the West starters pool will be Steph Curry. This will be his 9th All-Star appearance. Luka Doncic. This will be his 4th. You have Nikola Jokic. This will be his 5th All-Star appearance. And then Zion Williamson, who this will be his 2nd. He probably won't play. He'll probably be replaced, an injury replacement. Someone will come in and take his spot. And then you have the captain of the West pool, LeBron James, with his 19th All-Star appearance. Pretty incredible. They're pretty rare. I can't remember how many other players have reached that many All-Star games. He might be leading. I think he might be number 1. But those are your starters for the West pool. The Eastern Conference pool, you've got Kevin Durant with his 13th All-Star appearance. You've got Kyrie Irving with his 8th. You have Donovan Mitchell with his 4th. And then Jason Tatum with his 4th. And then the captain of the East pool, once again being captain, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And this is his 7th All-Star appearance. Now, those are the starting pool. Now, if you remember on my last episode how I kind of talked about how, they do the draft and whatnot, which this year is different. They're going to do the draft the day of the All-Star Game, kind of like playground style. It's like, all right, I want him. I'm going to take him. I'm going to take him. So that's going to be pretty fun. I think that's going to be pretty entertaining. But, you had some people, talking about who was snubbed for All-Star starters. And I have it pulled up here as a Bleacher Report article that I was looking at. So a lot of people felt Tyrese Halliburton should have been a starter. I understand why he's not. I mean, it's a mix of, your fan vote and, I think it's players and there's one more. It might be media as well. So, he's playing in Indiana. So you kind of have that playing against him. So I can understand why he's not, but he's balling out. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I could see him being a starter. Let's see here. Who else? Domantas Sabonis, nah, I don't think he's the snub. Lauri Markkanen, nah, he's not a starter snub. Joel Embiid, yeah, I could see that, but I don't know. I mean, Tatum, I wouldn't start him over Tatum or Giannis, or Kevin Durant. So, sorry, Joel Embiid, you're not a starter. But yeah, those are some of the snubs for starters that people felt. It was in a Bleacher Report article, like I said, that I looked at. But just today, right before I started recording this episode, they announced the reserves. So we know the full teams for the Western Conference pool and the Eastern Conference pool. So your Western Conference pool, you have Paul George making another All-Star appearance. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which I think this is his first All-Star appearance, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the number of All-Star games here. But you have Jaren Jackson. You have Damian Lillard. You've got Lauri Markkanen, Utah, so I think this is his first All-Star appearance. Ja Morant, and then you have Domantas Sabonis. So, look, there you go. The people that felt that those players were snubbed, they're all on the team. Like, great success. But then you have the Eastern Conference pool, and you have Bam Adebayo, you have Jaylen Brown, DeMar DeRozan, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, Drew Holiday, and Julius Randle. So, I mean, I feel as if that's pretty accurate. I was, when I was putting research together for the show and I found out the reserves, I looked at, all right, who do people feel was snubbed from the team completely? A lot of people are saying Jalen Brunson. I can see that. But in the Eastern Conference pool, I could see him being an all-star over Drew Holiday. I could see that. De'Aaron Fox people feel he was a snub. No, I wouldn't put him over any of the other guards. Anthony Edwards, I wouldn't put him over any of the other guards. James Harden, I don't feel he's been solid. I don't think he was an all-star this year. Devin Booker, well, he's been injured. So, yeah, that makes sense. Anthony Davis, yeah. I mean, if Devin Booker and Anthony Davis were healthy, they'd be all-stars. Um, Jimmy Butler, who would I put over? I'd probably put Jimmy over Bam, but Jimmy's been dealing with some injuries as well. Pascal Siakam, yeah, I think he should have made the team. He's been playing really well, and Toronto's has kind of. Oh wait, no, Toronto's not a playoff team right now. No, never mind. Your team's on the playoffs. You don't deserve to be on the All Star team. But anyway, those are the All Stars starters. Those are the reserves. I'm excited for All Star Weekend. Like I said in my last episode, All Star Weekend has been a big part of my childhood. I remember watching all the events Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I remember when Kevin Hart won the Celebrity Game MVP like 4 years in a row. And then you had who else? Who else is in those celebrity games? I can't remember the other celebrities, but it's fun. All-Star Game's fun. You got the dunk contest, three-point contest, all that good stuff. But let's transition. Last segment I got here. I just wanted to talk about Jokic real quick. I mean, a lot of people are talking. There's a lot of talk so far. And the NBA is definitely a story and a narrative-driven league like I talked about before. But there's a lot of talk. Is he going to go back to back to back for MVP? We could see it. I can't remember. I think it might have been Jason in my season premiere episode that talked about Jokic going back to back to back. We have not seen that since Larry Bird, Larry Legend, one of the all-time greats. But Jokic, check this out. Jokic is averaging 25 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists as a center. He's averaging a triple-double as a center. Now, other people have averaged triple-doubles in a season before. Russell Westbrook has done it multiple times. The Big O, Oscar Robinson's done it. Who else? James Harden almost did it a few years back when he was in Houston. But as a center, that's just impressive. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a Nuggets hater. That is impressive. But their last 5 games, Jokic's last 5 games, he's averaging 28 points per game, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists, shooting 72% from the field. Those are like 2K numbers. 54.5% from three-point range, and 93% from the field. Like I said, those are the last 5 games. His overall season numbers aren't that good, but it's pretty incredible. I mean, like I said, we have not seen someone go back to back to back since Larry Bird. I would like to see that. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I would like to see that. But Jokic, he's a media darling. Everybody loves him. With them having the number 1 seed right now and playing the way that they are, if he keeps up those numbers, especially those numbers from the past 5 games, which I don't think he will keep up those type of numbers, but if he keeps up his season average and finishes averaging a triple-double this year, I think they give it to him, especially if they finish with the number 1 seed as well. But I know I said that was my last segment, but I've got one more thing, because coming up here, by the time we have the next podcast, LeBron James is probably going to be the all-time leading scorer in NBA history in total accumulation of points. So I just want to give a shout out to LeBron. For an incredible record. Definitely one of the all-time GOATs. If he's not in your top 3, you're doing something wrong. But LeBron James, it's going to be pretty incredible. They're kind of tracking it. He's, as of the time of recording, as of right now, he's 89 points away. And some people believe they have a game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Lakers do, that is. And that's on Tuesday. And some of those like courtside seats are going for like $90,000. So they're anticipating he'll break the record against Oklahoma City on Tuesday in Los Angeles at the Crypto.com Arena, which is a terrible arena name. But it should be pretty incredible to see a record that has stood since, 89? If I'm not mistaken. That's when I think Kareem retired. I think Kareem retired in 89 or 90. I thought it was 89, but it might have been 90. Anyway, a record that stood for 30 plus years. So I think that'll be pretty cool to see. I love to see records broken, as long as it's not Spurs records. But anyway, before we wrap up here, I got to give you the answer to the Black History Trivia question. So, who is the only player to be top 5 all-time in the NBA in points and assists? And that is none other than the king himself, LeBron James. LeBron James right now currently sitting second all-time, going to be sitting first next week. An all-time in points, God forbid, injury or anything like that, and is currently 4th all-time in assists. That's incredible. He's not a point guard. I mean, he plays point. I understand that, but he's a forward. Like, impressive. LeBron, pat on the back. You're incredible. Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the show I have for you fine folks today. Thank you so much for being back with me. I was very much looking forward to today's show, but still got some more wedding planning, so please be patient with me. Bear with me. If I don't get an episode out, I will definitely let everyone know beforehand. But if, like I say every single week, if you could do all the good things, like, share, subscribe, leave comments, I would appreciate it. But I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Take care, and go Kansas City Chiefs.
So I need that go, y'all. Got hits when they throwing the fastball. Just too quick for it. Peeling off like the whip orange. Seen they effort, this piss poor. I got too much I gotta tend to. Car payments and the rent due.